Good morning. You are not quite awake yet. That's okay. You're not meant to be. The temple stone beneath your bare feet is still cool from the night. The eastern sky, behind the cliffs of Thebes, is just beginning to blush, soft pinks curling at the edges like tea-stained parchment. A few sleepy ibises croak in the distance. Somewhere, a priest clears his throat like a man preparing to argue with the sun itself. You walk slowly. You always walk slowly this early. Your linen robe hangs crooked on one shoulder, ink stains on your fingers from the night before. No one sees you right now, not even the gods, probably. Except Hathor. Her statue waits, tall and unmoved, in the shade of her open-air chapel. Her eyes are painted wide, rimmed with color, as if she never quite stops watching, even in sleep. She wears her crown like it's made of cloud and bronze. You bow slightly and whisper. Good morning, Lady of Songs. Let's try again, shall we? You take a breath. It's your third week sneaking out before the morning incense rituals, just to hum half verses and scratch draft hymns onto scrap papyrus. The others would laugh if they knew. Why sing to stone, they'd say. The gods don't answer lullabies. Maybe not. But you sing anyway. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And if you're listening from somewhere unusual, or it's 3:12 a.m. and you just needed background noise, drop your location and local time in the comments. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You take out your reed pen. It's a bit frayed at the tip. You chew it nervously, knowing full well that this habit tastes like regret and ink. Then you crouch, roll out a crumpled page from your robe's fold, and begin softly reciting. Sleep now, golden one. Milk-browed and moon-eyed. Let the stars hush your horn crown. And dream beneath the dawn. It's not bad. Not perfect either. Line 2 still bugs you, it's a little too soft. Hathor is gentle, yes, but she's also ferocious joy. Wine. Dancing. Celebration. She once nearly destroyed humanity in a fit of fury, until Ra tricked her into falling asleep with a flood of red beer. So yes, she deserves softness. But not weakness. Historians still argue whether temple scribes ever doubled as poets or whether there was an official role for composing hymns. But here, now, the line is blurry. Your fingers are stained with ash and ink. Your shoulders ache from sleeplessness. And you are very much both scribe and supplicant. The sun creeps higher. Gold spills across the floor like an offering. You remember your first day in the temple, how the high priest's voice thundered across the courtyard, announcing the Niles flooding like it was a birthday party for the gods. You were shorter then. Greener. You thought divine service meant glamour. What it meant, mostly, was sweeping papyrus scraps and not tripping over cats. But somewhere in the chaos of chores and chants, you found rhythm. Found it tucked in the margins of scrolls, in the hums old priests mumbled as they oiled statues, in the hush of footsteps across sandstone. There's music here. Always has been. You stand and read the verse again, louder now. The words float toward the statue. You imagine them curling around Hathor's ears, coaxing a smile from stone. A soft laugh escapes you. It's half nerves, half pride. You've been alone with this poem for too long. You speak to gods like they're housemates. Like they might laugh back. Behind you, a cart rattles by. A boy shouts about figs. The city is stirring. And you, little poet, must disappear again before anyone sees you playing psalmist without permission. You pack your scroll and hurry back through the side gate. The scent of frankincense is already rising. But as you slip behind the columns and back into anonymity, you pause. Just for a breath. Because on the edge of the statue's lips, maybe it's a trick of light, maybe it's sleep deprivation, there's a smirk. And somehow, that's enough to keep writing. Later that morning, after the sand has warmed and the birds have given up their morning gossip, you find yourself hunched over a table that smells of heat and burned resin. The scriptorium buzzes softly with the sounds of papyrus rustling, ink pots clinking, and scribes clearing their throats like they're composing symphonies with phlegm. You are back in your place, bottom corner, left of the doorway, just close enough to the window for the breeze, but far enough that the overseer doesn't suspect you might be daydreaming instead of copying down more grain tally receipts from the granary logs. You dip your reed pen, carefully this time. No chewing. Just steady hands, steady lines. The ink today is fresh. Sticky. Dark. It's made of soot from temple lamps, gum arabic from acacia trees, and water from a pot carried up the hill at sunrise. There's a saying, what a god doesn't burn for light, he gives for words. So yes, the ink smells faintly of old flame. As if the words you're writing are still smoldering a little. Today's task. List the goods donated by 3 fishermen from the west side of the Nile. You write. 1 basket of dried perch. 1 string of garlic bulbs. 1 sealed jug of fish oil, rancid. Poetry, it is not. But you steal a glance at your robe pocket. The draft hymn is still there, folded tight like a secret. You can feel the crease through the linen. It twitches a little when you breathe. You let your mind drift. Just for a blink. Back to the morning, to the verse you mumbled while the city still slept. Milk-browed and moon-eyed. You want to revise it. You need to revise it. But the overseer walks past, his sandals slapping the floor like disappointed applause. You return to the dried perch. Historians still argue whether ancient Egyptian ink had symbolic layers based on how it was made, whether soot was chosen because it echoed the afterlife, or simply because it was the only thing that stuck to papyrus. Either way, it makes your hands look like you've been sketching with shadows. Your neighbor, Amini, leans over and whispers, "You've got smudge on your ear." You nod. Ink? Or guilt? He smiles, then returns to his column of numbers. You sometimes wonder if Amini knows what you've been writing. He's sharp, good with glyphs, better with jokes. He once told you he found a poem in a delivery record and swore it made a goose cry. You never asked if he was serious. The high priest walks by now, his steps perfectly even. His robes barely whisper as he passes. You dip your head, but not too low, just the right amount of reverence. He carries a scroll in one hand and a thin stick in the other. You don't want to know which is heavier. Once he's gone, you glance at the board near the entrance where finished verses get pinned for temple review. There are 5 new postings this week. 2 are seasonal chants, plenty of sun metaphors and boat imagery. 1 is a hymn of thanks for a successful barley harvest. You don't recognize the script. But 1, the shortest, is unsigned. Just a 2-line verse. Beneath her gaze, even the stars hush. She dreams, so the world survives. You freeze. That's yours. Or at least, a line very close to yours. You scan the room. No one looks at you. No one smirks, no one nudges. It's just pinned there like it belongs. And maybe it does. Maybe someone overheard your reciting, or maybe Hathor herself decided to file it under communal property. You should be upset. But instead, your fingers twitch for ink again. You pull out a fresh scrap. You pretend you're writing down another supply count. But instead, you begin something new. Eyes like copper pools. Ears cupped to listen through centuries. There's rhythm again. You don't even need to think. The words come like breath. You hide the page quickly when Amini sneezes. Then, you slide it inside your sandal. Ink and sweat. A classic Egyptian perfume. The overseer claps his hands. Lunch. You stand, stretch, feel your knees protest like old furniture. As you walk out into the sun, squinting and blinking, the world looks both real and distant. Like a dream you haven't fully exited. A temple singer passes by you with a tray of grapes balanced on her head. She hums a melody you don't recognize. You match it, softly. It fits perfectly with the line in your shoe. Back in your chamber, you rinse your hands in a basin. The water turns gray. You laugh. It looks like you've been baptizing ravens. Tonight, you'll sneak out again. You'll bring the newest verse, maybe leave it folded at the base of the altar. Not for credit. Not for praise. But because words feel lonely if they're never heard. And maybe, just maybe, stone gods remember the softest sounds the longest. By now, the days are beginning to blur. Not in a sad way, more like ink in water, slowly swirling until you can't remember where one letter ends and another begins. Your lessons in the Lotus Hall are getting more complicated. At first, you thought hieroglyphs were just about learning what bird meant what sound and which squiggly man held which reed. But there's a moment every scribe remembers, the first time you realize a symbol isn't just a sound. It's a story. It's a spell. It's a map to somewhere nobody's walked in centuries. You trace a feather symbol today. Light, delicate. Ma'at, the goddess of truth, balance, justice. Her feather determines the weight of a soul in the afterlife. You accidentally drew it upside down. Your teacher raised an eyebrow but said nothing. The feather stayed, stubbornly, on the tablet. Truth inverted. You're studying not just letters now, but the music in them. Your instructor, the one they call Father Lotus, behind his back, insists that good poetry requires more than vocabulary. A god hears the rhythm of your offering before it hears the meaning, he says while tapping a reed gently against his teeth like a metronome. So he makes you speak the words aloud. Slowly. Over and over. Night stretches like linen. Over her silver laughter. You repeat it until your tongue goes soft and your voice starts to sound like someone else's. The rhythm is in your breath now, not on the page. Historians still argue whether Egyptian education in the arts was formalized through memorization or oral transmission. All you know is that your back hurts from sitting cross-legged so long, and your mouth tastes like papyrus dust. One of your classmates, a dreamy boy named Kanu, leans over during break and asks, "Do you ever write something and feel like it came from someone else?" You shrug. "I usually blame it on Hathor." He nods, satisfied, then tells you he dreamt of a talking ibis who criticized his handwriting. You don't know if he's joking. Later, you walk the temple halls alone, humming the verses you've memorized. The columns around you feel impossibly tall, their hieroglyphs carved so deeply you can hide half a finger in the grooves. You think about the men who carved them centuries ago. Did they hum, too? Did they make mistakes, chip a foot wrong, and pretend it was intentional? Did their wives ever roll their eyes at how long it took them to finish a single lotus petal? You find a quiet alcove near a shallow pool used for ritual washing. The water is still, reflecting the wall behind it. You lean over and whisper a line into it. "Mirror, speak not, just carry my hymn to the stars." You wait. No response, of course. But a ripple disturbs the surface anyway. Wind. Or a frog. Or something else. You stay there longer than you should, rearranging words in your head, tracing glyphs on your palm with your ink-stained finger. There's a peace in it. You're building something invisible. You're folding air into pattern. Sometimes, when you're particularly tired, you imagine that the gods commissioned you directly. That Hathor passed your scroll around to Osiris, who smirked and handed it to Thoth, who wrote notes in the margin. You once drew that scenario as a doodle on your tablet. It earned you 3 days scrubbing offering bowls. Worth it. Back in your chamber, the window lets in a narrow blade of light. You stretch your scrolls out on the floor. Some are too smudged to save. Some are full of promise. One has a mustard stain you don't remember making. You separate the scrolls, hymns, drafts, probably cursed, and started while sleepy. It's your own personal library now. You stack them in a jar lined with linen and seal the top with wax. A private archive, one only the gods and you know exists. Your teacher gives a sermon the next morning about humility. No name outlives the gods, he says, so let your pride sleep like the sun beneath the horizon. You write that down. Not because you agree, but because it sounds like a verse. After class, you pass a wall where the latest student hymns are posted. Someone has written one about Ra's chariot. The sun metaphors are loud. Too loud, in your opinion. But the last line sings. He blinks, and we burn. He sighs, and we rise. You smile. You may be young. You may not have a title. But you're not the only one who dreams in couplets and wakes with rhyme on your tongue. And tomorrow, just before dawn, you'll slip back to that statue with a new verse in your pocket. Because words, you've learned, are not just for reading. They're for offering. The night Hather wouldn't sleep starts quietly enough. You wake long before the temple bells, heart racing from a dream you can't remember. You reach instinctively for the scroll under your mat, the one with the newest lullaby draft. It's still there, safe, the corners curled just slightly like it's sighing. You whisper the first lines aloud, half to remember them, half to hush the dark. Lady of laughter, stretch wide your arms. Fold the dusk in your velvet charms. It's meant to soothe. You wrote it after 3 straight mornings of watching the temple dancers spill milk as they swayed, after hearing the priests mutter about bad omens and too many bees. You thought perhaps Hather was restless. Perhaps she needed a song. And so, with pen in hand and the stars still blinking above you, you sneak out again, barefoot and quiet as the wind. This time, though, something is off. The air is heavier. Not hot, just thick. Still. Like the whole sky is holding its breath. You pass through the side gate and head straight to the shrine, your usual spot, where Hather's statue stands in all her moonlit glory. But tonight, her face looks different. You squint. No, it's just shadow. Or is it? Her painted eyes seem sharper somehow. Watching more closely. You kneel as always, lay out the scroll, and begin reciting softly. But by the second line, your voice catches. There's a tremble, not from fear, exactly. More like feedback. Like your words are echoing back before you finish them. Fold the dusk, the dusk, the dusk. You blink. Look around. No one. But a breeze rushes past your ear, sudden and deliberate. And the lamp next to the statue flickers even though there's no wind. Historians still argue whether Egyptian deities were considered emotionally reactive or simply symbolic. But in that moment, kneeling before a statue that seems to be listening too closely, you're ready to side with the dramatic interpretation. You try again. Velvet charms, rest your flame. The breeze returns, stronger this time, and the lamp goes out entirely. You freeze. Now it's dark. And silent. And the sky is still holding its breath. You should leave. But instead, you do something foolish. You start humming. No words this time, just the tune. Soft and low, barely more than vibration. You close your eyes and let the rhythm guide your breath. And slowly, the air shifts again. Warms slightly. The tension lifts, like the temple itself has exhaled. When you open your eyes, the lamp is lit again. You didn't relight it. You're not sure anyone did. You gather your scroll, hands slightly unsteady. You bow low, not the polite kind you usually offer, but the deep, forehead-to-floor kind you save for funerals and kings. Then you rise and walk backward, step by step, never turning your back to the statue. Back in your chamber, you don't sleep. You just sit on your mat, staring at the draft in your hand. It's good. Maybe too good. The rhythm flows. The imagery dances. But you can't shake the feeling that something in it touched Hathor. Or perhaps tugged her too hard. The next day, during temple offerings, the high priest announces that Hathor's altar smelled of scorched linen and cedar, even though no fires were lit. No one speaks. But the dancers look nervous. You say nothing. Just copy another grain report and nod at Amini when he jokes about cursed papyrus. But you do rewrite the lullaby that night. You take out the strongest lines, the ones that sang too loudly, and replace them with gentler verses. You soften the imagery. Less fire, more breeze. Less velvet, more cotton. You leave the new version on the altar the next morning. Folded, unsigned, unspoken. A few days later, the bees stop swarming. The dancers stop spilling milk. Someone paints a new mural near the shrine, Hathor reclining beneath a canopy of stars, eyes closed, smiling faintly. You visit it often. You don't say much. But sometimes, when no one's around, you hum. And every time, the air hums back.